Imagine this. You're standing in a dimly lit room, face to face with a man who has built an empire from nothing, his name whispered in equal parts awe and dread. He's charming, magnetic, even charismatic. But there's something else lurking beneath the surface, a cold calculation that sends a shiver down your spine. This is someone who doesn't play by the rules, he rewrites them. And as you watch him command attention, bend wills, and crush opposition without hesitation, one question burns in your mind. Why does the world reward people like him? Why do the ruthless rise while the virtuous falter? What if the answer lies not in their actions, but in our own complicity? What if the seeds of their success are buried deep within the very fabric of human nature, waiting to be unearthed? Today, we journey into the shadowy corridors of power, guided by the piercing insights of Friedrich Nietzsche, to uncover the dark truth about why evil people succeed, and what it reveals about us all. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine standing at the edge of an ancient battlefield. The air is thick with smoke, the ground littered with broken swords and shattered shields. In the distance, you see two figures, one cloaked in white, radiating calmness and virtue, the other draped in shadow, exuding raw ambition and cunning. Who do you think will emerge victorious? History whispers its answer. It's almost always the one who wields ruthlessness as a weapon. This paradox haunts us all. Why do those we deem evil so often rise to power, while the virtuous languish in obscurity? To unravel this mystery, we must journey into the mind of Friedrich Nietzsche, whose piercing insights into human nature reveal truths that are as unsettling as they are undeniable. Nietzsche spoke of something he called the will to power, a primal force driving every human action, hidden beneath layers of morality and civility. He argued that society had constructed what he termed slave morality, a system designed to suppress humanity's natural instincts for dominance, creativity, and self-overcoming. Those who reject these constraints, who embrace their darker impulses, often find themselves ascending to heights others can only dream of. Think of Napoleon Bonaparte, a man who seized control of France not through democratic ideals, but through sheer audacity and manipulation. Or consider Elizabeth Holmes, the disgraced founder of the Ranos, whose charisma and unyielding ambition allowed her to deceive even the most astute investors. These individuals didn't play by the rules, they rewrote them. And in doing so, they revealed a chilling truth. Success isn't always about being good, it's about being effective. But why does effectiveness so often align with amorality? Psychology offers some answers. Researchers have identified traits known as the dark triad: narcissism, Machiavellianism, and psychopathy. Individuals possessing these qualities tend to excel in competitive environments because they prioritize personal gain over ethical considerations. They manipulate without guilt, charm without sincerity, and dominate without hesitation. Take Tony Soprano, the fictional mob boss from television, whose brutal tactics make him both repulsive and mesmerizing. We despise his actions yet cannot look away, drawn to the magnetic pull of his unapologetic pursuit of power. It's as if deep within us lies a fascination with those who refuse to bow to societal norms, who carve their own paths regardless of the cost. This fascination extends beyond fiction. Throughout history, we've celebrated antiheroes like Genghis Khan, whose conquests reshaped continents, or Henry Ford, whose innovations revolutionized industry despite his questionable labor practices. Even today, leaders who defy convention captivate our attention. Vladimir Putin, for instance, embodies a blend of strategic brilliance and moral ambiguity that has kept him in power for decades. His ability to project strength, no matter how ruthless, resonates with millions who crave stability in uncertain times. Nietzsche would argue that such figures succeed precisely because they reject the limitations imposed by traditional values. By casting off the chains of guilt and shame, they unlock a form of freedom unavailable to those bound by conventional morality. Yet, there's another layer to this puzzle, one rooted in our collective psyche. Humans are storytellers by nature, and the narratives we create shape our understanding of the world. When we encounter someone who defies expectations, whether real or fictional, we instinctively seek meaning in their actions. Walter White, the high school chemistry teacher turned drug lord from Breaking Bad, exemplifies this phenomenon. At first glance, he appears monstrous, a man willing to destroy lives, including his own families, in pursuit of wealth and control. But as viewers, we're compelled to dig deeper, searching for justification in his transformation. Was he driven by desperation, a desire to leave a legacy? Or was it simply the intoxicating allure of unchecked power? Our need to rationalize evil reflects a broader truth. We're more comfortable with complexity than absolutes. Black and white distinctions feel hollow compared to the rich tapestry of gray areas that define human existence. The question then arises, what separates admiration from revulsion? Why do we cheer for characters like Don Draper in Mad Men or Frank Underwood in House of Cards, yet recoil when confronted with similar behavior in real life? Part of the answer lies in context. Fiction provides a safe space to explore the darker corners of human ambition without facing direct consequences. Within these boundaries, we grant ourselves permission to indulge fantasies of power and control, imagining what it might feel like to shed the burdens of morality. But reality imposes limits, forcing us to confront the fallout of unchecked ambition. Consider the global financial crisis of 2008, orchestrated in part by Wall Street executives whose greed destabilized economies worldwide. Their actions mirrored those of fictional villains, yet the devastation they caused left no room for romanticization. And yet, even in the face of such destruction, we remain strangely ambivalent. On one hand, we condemn the perpetrators. On the other, we marvel at their ability to bend systems to their will. This duality stems from a fundamental tension within human nature, the conflict between cooperation and competition. Evolutionary psychology suggests that survival depends on striking a delicate balance between these forces. Cooperation fosters trust and community, essential for long-term stability. Competition, however, drives innovation and progress, pushing boundaries that might otherwise stagnate. Those who lean too far toward either extreme risk failure. The overly cooperative become exploited, while the excessively competitive alienate allies and destabilize structures. Success belongs to those who navigate this razor's edge with precision, blending charm with calculation, empathy with detachment. Nietzsche understood this dynamic better than most. He envisioned a new kind of human being, the Übermensch, or overman, who transcends conventional morality to create their own values. Unlike the nihilist who rejects all meaning, the Übermensch embraces life in its entirety, forging purpose from chaos. Such a figure doesn't deny the existence of suffering or injustice. Instead, they harness these elements as fuel for growth. Imagine a leader who combines the visionary zeal of Steve Jobs with the pragmatic resolve of Winston Churchill. They inspire loyalty not through fear, but through clarity of vision, compelling others to follow not out of obligation, but conviction. While few may achieve this ideal, the archetype serves as a reminder that greatness requires sacrifice, not just of external comforts, but of internal illusions. Of course, the path to such heights is fraught with peril. Power corrupts not because it inherently taints the soul, but because it amplifies pre-existing tendencies. A person motivated by greed becomes insatiable, One driven by insecurity grows increasingly paranoid. The same traits that propel individuals upward can also drag them down if left unchecked. Julius Caesar learned this lesson the hard way, assassinated by former allies who feared his growing influence. Similarly, modern titans like Elon Musk walk a tightrope between genius and hubris, their achievements overshadowed by controversies that threaten to undermine their legacies. The challenge, then, is not merely acquiring power, but wielding it wisely, a task easier said than done. As we reflect on these ideas, let us return to the battlefield where our story began. The figure in white still stands tall, unwavering in their commitment to righteousness. Meanwhile, the shadowy figure looms larger than ever, their victories etched into the annals of history. Neither path is perfect, nor is either free of consequences. What matters is not which side we choose, but how we navigate the tension between them. For in that space lies the essence of humanity, the constant struggle to reconcile our highest aspirations with our basest desires. Perhaps the ultimate lesson is not whether evil succeeds, but whether we allow it to define us. Will we succumb to cynicism, or will we dare to forge a new paradigm? The choice, as always, rests in our hands. Consider now the implications of this exploration. If ruthless behavior leads to success, should we abandon our principles entirely? Not necessarily. Nietzsche himself never advocated for nihilism or chaos. Instead, he challenged us to confront uncomfortable truths about ourselves and the societies we inhabit. He believed that true greatness required transcending outdated moral frameworks, not discarding morality altogether, but redefining it on our own terms. Imagine a world where integrity and ambition coexist, where leaders inspire loyalty not through fear, but through vision. Such a future may seem idealistic, but it begins with acknowledging the flaws in our current systems. Only then can we build structures that reward virtue without stifling innovation. Let us take inspiration from the past while remaining vigilant about the present. Figures like Martin Luther King Jr. and Mahatma Gandhi demonstrated that nonviolent resistance could topple oppressive regimes, proving that moral courage need not be sacrificed at the altar of pragmatism. Yet, their journeys were marked by immense hardship, reminding us that virtue alone rarely guarantees victory. The key lies in adaptability, the ability to blend idealism with realism, compassion with strategy. Those who master this art stand the best chance of leaving a lasting impact, shaping not just their own destinies, but the trajectory of humanity itself. In the end, the question of why evil people succeed is less about them and more about us. It forces us to examine the values we uphold, the systems we perpetuate, and the stories we tell ourselves. Are we content to live in a world where ruthlessness reigns supreme, or do we possess the courage to demand something better? The answers won't come easily, nor should they. Great questions rarely yield simple solutions. But perhaps therein lies their beauty, the endless pursuit of understanding, the relentless quest to uncover the truths that bind us together even as they drive us apart. As Nietzsche once wrote, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." May we each find our why, and in doing so, illuminate the shadows cast by those who came before us. To truly grasp why ruthless individuals often succeed, we must dissect the anatomy of ruthlessness itself. What makes someone capable of discarding empathy, ethics, and altruism in pursuit of their goals? Is it innate, cultivated, or a combination of both? Neuroscience and evolutionary biology offer intriguing clues. Studies suggest that certain brain structures, such as the amygdala and prefrontal cortex, play critical roles in regulating emotions like fear, guilt, and compassion. Individuals with diminished activity in these regions may experience reduced inhibitions against harmful behaviors, giving them a perceived advantage in cutthroat environments. Take, for example, the infamous case of Bernie Madoff, architect of one of history's largest Ponzi schemes. Madoff exhibited classic signs of the dark triad. He charmed investors with promises of guaranteed returns, manipulated markets with Machiavellian precision, and displayed a chilling lack of remorse upon his arrest. Yet, what set him apart wasn't just his willingness to deceive. It was his ability to sustain the illusion for decades. Psychologists refer to this trait as impression management, the skill of controlling how others perceive you. By projecting confidence, competence, and authority, ruthless individuals create an aura of invincibility that disarms skeptics and attracts followers. However, impression management alone doesn't guarantee success. Equally important is the capacity for calculated risk-taking. Ruthless individuals thrive in uncertainty, viewing chaos not as a threat, but as an opportunity. They understand that fortune favors the bold, and they're willing to gamble everything on a single roll of the dice if the potential payoff justifies the stakes. Consider Jeff Bezos, founder of Amazon. Early critics dismissed his vision of an online bookstore as impractical, yet Bezos persisted, pouring billions into infrastructure and logistics before turning a profit. His willingness to endure short-term losses in pursuit of long-term dominance mirrors the mindset of ruthless conquerors throughout history. But here's the catch. While ruthlessness can open doors, it often comes at a steep price. Relationships suffer, trust erodes, and reputations crumble under the weight of repeated betrayals. Even those who achieve monumental success frequently find themselves isolated, haunted by the ghosts of decisions made in the name of ambition. Pablo Escobar, the Colombian drug lord whose cartel controlled nearly 80% of the global cocaine trade, amassed unimaginable wealth and power. But at what cost? His reign of terror devastated communities, destroyed families, and ultimately led to his demise. Escobar's story serves as a cautionary tale, illustrating the destructive cycle of ruthlessness unchecked by conscience. Still, the allure of power remains irresistible to many. Why? Because power in its purest form represents agency, the ability to shape reality according to one's will. For Nietzsche, this was the essence of the will to power. He saw it not as a vice, but as a fundamental aspect of existence, driving artists, philosophers, and innovators to push boundaries and transcend limitations. The problem arises when this drive becomes untethered from higher purposes, devolving into mere domination for its own sake. When power is pursued solely for personal gain, it breeds exploitation, inequality, and suffering. This brings us back to the central dilemma. How do we reconcile the seductive appeal of ruthlessness with the moral imperative to act ethically? One possible solution lies in redefining what constitutes success. Rather than measuring achievement purely in terms of wealth, status, or influence, we might emphasize qualities like resilience, creativity, and contribution to the greater good. Leaders like Jacinda Ardern, former Prime Minister of New Zealand, exemplify this alternative paradigm. Her empathetic leadership during crises earned her widespread admiration, proving that kindness and decisiveness are not mutually exclusive. Ultimately, the answer may lie in embracing paradox. Life is messy, contradictory, and unpredictable. To navigate it effectively, we must cultivate a dual consciousness, one that acknowledges the necessity of toughness without losing sight of tenderness. Nietzsche called this process self-overcoming, the ongoing effort to transcend our limitations while remaining grounded in authenticity. It's a daunting challenge, requiring constant vigilance and self-reflection. But for those who dare to undertake it, The rewards are profound, a life lived with purpose, passion, and integrity. To fully understand why ruthless individuals succeed, we must confront an uncomfortable truth. The traits we associate with evil are not external forces, but intrinsic aspects of human nature. Carl Jung, the Swiss psychiatrist and contemporary of Freud, introduced the concept of the shadow, the unconscious part of our psyche that houses repressed desires, instincts, and emotions. According to Jung, denying or suppressing the shadow only amplifies its influence, causing it to manifest in destructive ways. Conversely, acknowledging and integrating the shadow allows us to harness its energy constructively. Nietzsche's philosophy aligns closely with this idea. His notion of the will to power can be seen as an exploration of humanity's shadow, the raw, untamed impulses that drive us to dominate, create, and transcend. When channeled responsibly, these impulses fuel innovation, artistry, and leadership. When left unchecked, they give rise to tyranny, exploitation, and cruelty. The difference lies in how we relate to our darker sides. Do we reject them outright, projecting their flaws onto others? Or do we embrace them as integral parts of ourselves, using their intensity to propel us forward? Consider the myth of Prometheus, the titan who defied Zeus by stealing fire from the gods and gifting it to humanity. In doing so, he brought enlightenment, but also suffering, as punishment followed swiftly on the heels of his act of rebellion. Prometheus embodies the dual-edged sword of ambition, the courage to challenge authority and the willingness to endure consequences. Nietzsche admired such figures, seeing them as prototypes of the Übermensch, individuals unafraid to confront adversity in pursuit of higher ideals. Yet, the shadow archetype is not limited to mythological heroes. It resides within each of us. Think about moments when you've acted out of anger, jealousy, or pride. These emotions often stem from unmet needs or unresolved conflicts buried deep within your psyche. By ignoring them, you risk allowing resentment to fester, poisoning relationships, and undermining personal growth. On the other hand, confronting these feelings head-on enables you to transform them into sources of strength. For instance, channeling frustration into determination can lead to breakthroughs in creativity or productivity. This principle applies equally to society at large. Cultures that stigmatize negative emotions, viewing vulnerability as weakness or aggression as inherently wrong, create environments where shadows thrive unchecked. Consider workplace dynamics, where employees are expected to suppress frustration, fear, or dissatisfaction in favor of maintaining professionalism. Over time, this repression breeds toxicity, as unresolved tensions simmer beneath the surface until they erupt in damaging ways. Leaders who encourage open dialogue, however, foster healthier ecosystems, where individuals feel empowered to express themselves authentically. Returning to the question of ruthless success, it becomes clear that many so-called evil people simply lack awareness of their own shadows, or worse, glorify them without restraint. Take the example of Harvey Weinstein, whose predatory behavior devastated countless lives yet went unchecked for decades due to his immense power and influence. Weinstein's downfall illustrates what happens when the shadow dominates consciousness, eclipsing empathy and accountability. Had he confronted his demons earlier, perhaps through therapy or introspection, he might have avoided self-destruction and spared others immense pain. But let's not oversimplify matters. Not all ruthless individuals operate from a place of ignorance or malice. Some deliberately cultivate their shadows, viewing them as tools for achieving greatness. Steve Jobs, co-founder of Apple, famously pushed employees to extremes, demanding perfection and punishing failure. While his methods alienated many, they also yielded revolutionary products that transformed industries. Jobs understood the value of embracing discomfort, both in himself and in those around him. He once said, "Your work is going to fill a large part of your life, and the only way to be truly satisfied is to do what you believe is great work." For Jobs, greatness required confronting the darkness, not shying away from it. The lesson here is twofold. First, we must recognize that ruthlessness itself is neither inherently good nor evil. Its moral valence depends on context and intent. Second, we must learn to engage with our shadows consciously, transforming their chaotic energy into constructive action. This process begins with humility, an acknowledgement that none of us is immune to the pull of darkness. As Nietzsche wrote, "If you gaze long enough into the abyss gazes back into you." Only by facing the abyss can we hope to emerge stronger, wiser, and more whole. One cannot discuss ruthless success without examining the art of manipulation, a skill mastered by history's most notorious figures. From Machiavelli's treatise The Prince to modern-day political strategists, the ability to sway opinions, bend rules, and exploit weaknesses has long been a hallmark of effective leadership. But what separates manipulative geniuses from mere opportunists? And why are we so susceptible to their charms? At its core, manipulation relies on understanding human psychology, our fears, desires, biases, and vulnerabilities. Successful manipulators excel at reading people, identifying leverage points, and crafting narratives that resonate emotionally. They know, for instance, that humans crave certainty in uncertain times, making us more likely to follow leaders who project confidence, even if that confidence masks incompetence. Similarly, they exploit cognitive biases like confirmation bias, the tendency to seek information that confirms pre-existing beliefs, and the halo effect, the assumption that someone excelling in one area must excel in others. Take Adolf Hitler, whose rise to power exemplifies the devastating potential of manipulation. Through masterful rhetoric and propaganda, he tapped into Germany's post-World War I grievances, promising restoration of national pride and economic stability. His speeches were meticulously crafted to evoke visceral reactions: anger toward perceived enemies, hope for a brighter future, loyalty to the fatherland. By framing himself as the savior of a beleaguered nation, Hitler secured unwavering support despite his abhorrent ideologies. What made him particularly dangerous was his ability to normalize atrocities, convincing millions that genocide was justified in service of a greater cause. Modern examples abound as well. Social media platforms, for instance, employ sophisticated algorithms designed to manipulate user behavior. By prioritizing sensational content over factual accuracy, these systems amplify outrage, division, and misinformation, all while profiting from ad revenue. Influencers, too, wield significant power by curating aspirational lifestyles that leave followers feeling inadequate unless they purchase endorsed products. Both cases highlight how easily we fall prey to manipulation when our insecurities are exploited. So, how do ruthless individuals hone their manipulative prowess? Often, it starts with keen observation. They pay attention to subtle cues, body language, tone of voice, word choice, that reveal underlying motivations. Armed with this knowledge, they tailor their approaches to maximize impact. A CEO might flatter a board member before requesting approval for a risky venture. A politician might appeal to patriotism during a crisis to rally public support. Each tactic leverages psychological principles to achieve specific outcomes. However, manipulation carries risks. Overuse erodes trust, leaving manipulators vulnerable to backlash once their tactics are exposed. Moreover, reliance on manipulation fosters shallow connections, depriving individuals of genuine relationships built on mutual respect and authenticity. Even the most skilled manipulators eventually face reckoning, whether through scandal, rebellion, or sheer exhaustion. For those seeking ethical alternatives, persuasion offers a viable path. Unlike manipulation, which seeks to control, persuasion aims to collaborate, inviting others to share your vision while respecting their autonomy. Persuasive leaders listen actively, acknowledge opposing viewpoints, and build consensus through reasoned argumentation. They understand that true influence stems not from coercion, but from credibility, earned through consistent integrity and competence. Ultimately, the distinction between manipulation and persuasion boils down to intent. Are you seeking to empower others or dominate them? To inspire change or impose your will? The answers determine whether your actions contribute to progress or perpetuate harm. While the allure of power may seem irresistible, few pause to consider its hidden costs. Achieving greatness often requires sacrifices, some visible, others deeply personal, that shape not only the individual but also those around them. For every triumphant ascent, there exists a trail of collateral damage, strained relationships, compromised values, shattered dreams. Understanding these trade-offs is crucial to evaluating whether the pursuit of power is worth the price. Consider the story of Alexander the Great, whose conquests stretched from Greece to India, creating one of history's largest empires. At just 20 years old, Alexander inherited his father Philip's Roman kingdom and immediately embarked on a campaign of expansion. Driven by ambition and a desire to surpass his mentor Aristotle's teachings, he led armies across continents, defeating formidable foes and earning legendary status. Yet behind the glory lay profound losses. Alexander's relentless drive alienated friends, advisors, and even family members. His closest companion, Hephaestion, died under mysterious circumstances, plunging Alexander into despair. By the time of his death at age 32, he had achieved unparalleled success, but at the cost of happiness, peace, and perhaps sanity. Similar patterns emerge in contemporary figures. Elon Musk, CEO of Tesla and SpaceX, embodies the archetype of the visionary entrepreneur willing to sacrifice everything for his dreams. Musk's innovations have revolutionized industries, from electric vehicles to space travel. However, his single-minded focus has exacted a toll. Multiple marriages ended in divorce. Children reportedly struggled with absentee parenting, and employees endured grueling conditions under his demanding leadership style. Critics accuse Musk of prioritizing profit over ethics, pointing to controversies surrounding labor practices and environmental impact. Supporters counter that his contributions outweigh any negatives, arguing that transformative change inevitably disrupts existing systems. What lessons can we draw from these examples? First, power demands discipline, a willingness to prioritize long-term goals over short-term gratification. This often means foregoing pleasures, comforts, and conveniences enjoyed by others. Second, power isolates. As responsibilities grow, so too does distance from ordinary life. Friends become liabilities, hobbies distractions, leisure luxuries. Third, power corrupts, not necessarily through malice, but through gradual erosion of perspective. Surrounded by sycophants and insulated from criticism, powerful individuals lose touch with reality, mistaking their subjective experiences for objective truths. Yet, the narrative needn't always end in tragedy. Some manage to balance ambition with compassion, achieving success without sacrificing humanity. Nelson Mandela, for instance, endured 27 years in prison fighting apartheid, yet emerged with forgiveness in his heart. His presidency marked a turning point for South Africa, demonstrating that reconciliation and justice could coexist. Similarly, Malala Yousafzai survived an assassination attempt by the Taliban to become a global advocate for girls' education. Her resilience inspires millions, proving that courage and kindness are not mutually exclusive. These contrasting stories underscore a vital truth. Power amplifies character. Those grounded in humility, empathy, and purpose use their influence to uplift others. Those consumed by ego, greed, and fear sow discord and destruction. The choice lies with each individual to wield power as a force for good or ill. As we near the culmination of this exploration, one truth becomes undeniable. Power is a double-edged sword, capable of both creation and destruction. The stories of ruthless individuals who ascend to greatness are as varied as they are instructive, offering lessons that resonate across time and culture. Yet, what ultimately defines their legacies is not merely the heights they achieve, but the manner in which they wield their influence. Do they leave behind a world enriched by their presence, or scarred by their ambition? Consider the dichotomy between two historical figures, Julius Caesar and Mahatma Gandhi. Both men sought to reshape their worlds, yet their methods and outcomes could not have been more different. Caesar's rise to power was marked by military conquest, political maneuvering, and betrayal, culminating in his assassination at the hands of those he trusted. His legacy endures as a symbol of imperial might, but also as a cautionary tale of unchecked ambition. Gandhi, on the other hand, eschewed violence in favor of nonviolent resistance, mobilizing millions through moral courage and unwavering conviction. Though his life ended tragically, his vision of peace and justice continues to inspire movements for equality worldwide. What separates these archetypes? At its heart, the difference lies in purpose. Caesar pursued power for its own sake, viewing it as an end rather than a means. Gandhi, conversely, saw power as a tool to serve humanity, leveraging it to dismantle oppression and uplift marginalized communities. This distinction underscores a fundamental principle. True greatness arises not from domination, but from contribution. Those who prioritize collective well-being over personal gain earn not only admiration, but lasting impact. But let us not romanticize virtue at the expense of pragmatism. History shows that kindness alone rarely topples tyrants or transforms systems. Effective leadership requires a blend of idealism and realism, a delicate balance between compassion and decisiveness. Figures like Abraham Lincoln exemplify this synthesis. As president during America's Civil War, Lincoln faced unimaginable challenges, from preserving the Union to abolishing slavery. His decisions often required sacrifices, including compromises that disappointed allies and policies that drew fierce criticism. Yet, his steadfast commitment to higher principles ensured that his presidency left an indelible mark on history. In our modern era, this tension persists. Leaders in business, politics, and culture grapple daily with questions of ethics versus expediency. Should a CEO prioritize shareholder profits over environmental sustainability? Can a politician advocate for social justice without alienating key constituencies? These dilemmas reflect the same age-old struggle between morality and pragmatism that Nietzsche articulated centuries ago. There are no easy answers, only trade-offs that demand wisdom, foresight, and courage. Perhaps the most profound insight comes from recognizing that power itself is neutral. It is neither inherently good nor evil. Its moral valence depends entirely on the intentions and actions of those who wield it. A hammer can build a home or shatter a skull. Similarly, power can heal divisions or deepen wounds. The responsibility rests with each individual to choose how they engage with this formidable force. This brings us back to Nietzsche's concept of the Übermensch. the overman who transcends conventional morality to forge their own values. While Nietzsche's vision has often been misinterpreted as endorsing nihilism or amorality, its essence lies in self-mastery. The Übermensch does not reject morality outright, but redefines it based on authentic principles, unshackled from societal expectations. Such individuals embody resilience, creativity, and purpose, using their gifts to shape reality according to their will. They do not shy away from darkness, but integrate it into their being, transforming chaos into clarity. For those of us navigating the complexities of contemporary life, the challenge is clear: to embrace our shadows without letting them consume us, to pursue ambition without sacrificing integrity, to seek power without losing sight of humility. It is a path fraught with difficulty, requiring constant vigilance and self-reflection. But for those who dare to walk it, the rewards are immeasurable. A life lived with meaning, passion, and authenticity. As we conclude this journey, let us return once more to the battlefield where our story began. The figure in white still stands tall, unwavering in their commitment to righteousness. The shadowy figure looms larger than ever, their victories etched into the annals of history. Neither path is perfect, nor is either free of consequences. What matters is not which side we choose, but how we navigate the tension between them. For in that space lies the essence of humanity, the constant struggle to reconcile our highest aspirations with our basest desires. Ultimately, the question of why evil people succeed is less about them and more about us. It forces us to examine the values we uphold, the systems we perpetuate, and the stories we tell ourselves. Are we content to live in a world where ruthlessness reigns supreme, or do we possess the courage to demand something better? The answers won't come easily, nor should they. Great questions rarely yield simple solutions. But perhaps therein lies their beauty, the endless pursuit of understanding, the relentless quest to uncover the truths that bind us together even as they drive us apart. Nietzsche once wrote, "He who has a why to live can bear almost any how." May we each find our why, and in doing so, illuminate the shadows cast by those who came before us. May we strive not merely for success, but for significance, for a legacy that enriches the lives of others long after we are gone. And may we remember that the greatest power of all is the ability to choose who we become. The paradox of ruthless success will always linger in the human psyche, challenging us to confront uncomfortable truths about ourselves and the societies we inhabit. By embracing complexity, cultivating empathy, and committing to purposeful action, we can transcend the limitations of conventional morality and forge a future worthy of our highest ideals. Let this be our guiding light as we step forward into the unknown, a reminder that power, when wielded wisely, has the potential to transform not just our own lives, but the world itself.